it's Derryn here from Art by Derryn, welcoming you to another ArtStart Mixed Media Art class. Today we're talking water reflections in acrylic. We'll be finishing off our mountain landscape and I'll be showing you how to paint your water reflections as well. Let's get started. So I've let this dry overnight just to see what happened with this section here that I'd totally forgotten that I put glass bead gel in, and that's why nothing is really sticking to it. The blue has dried, and of course with acrylics it all dries darker, so we've really lost that watercolor kind of feeling that we had going up here, and it's really become an acrylic painting now because we've got so much darkness through here. So what I'm going to do to fix this area so that it looks more like this, I've put out just some reeds. This is Naples Yellow and some Liquitex unbleached titanium and a little bit of the Studio acrylic. This is iridescent, but I may knock that back or keep it. I'll see how it goes. But having these colours out, I'm going to show you a different technique for getting brush and foliage, is to use a sea sponge. As you can see, this is an old one of mine, but what it does is it gives that kind of foliage texture. So what I'm going to do is get a bit of yellow on there and a little bit of white on the unbleached titanium, and then I'm going to pound most of it off onto my palette and see what kind of shapes it gives. I don't know if I can pick that up there, but you can see it gives this very much foliage kind of thing without me having to fiddle too much. So this section here, we want to bring foliage in. You want to twist it and turn it so that it's not all going in the same direction. And you can see very quickly, 3 or 4 seconds, I've got a brush type of foliage look to that now. And yes, I know it doesn't quite look perfect yet, but this is only a layer. Okay, let's knock it back a little bit. We'll see what that looks like when it dries. Again with all of our layers if we don't like it after it's dried. I mean, the painting is looking really ugly right now, and I mean, you get to a point often, even as a professional artist, that you think, oh my goodness, what the hell am I going to do with this? But painting is problem solving. So what I'll probably have to do because this is so heavy now, this doesn't really go with it, I'm going to have to put more colour into this sky to balance it. But we'll see how we go. It may end up in the bin, but I hope not. Stay with me. I'm sure you all have had paintings where you think, oh my god, what's going on? But I'll show you how to bring them back. Okay. The reason I'm adding this as well, I can go in over this lighter colour with a paler green and bring that forward. I might just make this a little stronger here. And then grab a small brush, bit of water on it, some more of the unbleached titanium, and I'll use this to put highlights. So let's see, we've got a stick, tree trunk here, and I'll tone these with colour once it's dried. I also want to add some highlights to these. What I might do here is flatten my brush by going backwards and forwards like that, so it's flat, and just drag it over the highlight, over the texture there. So you can see now we've got that. Very easily dragging that over in a flat sort of motion, so it just hits the tops of that fibre. You can just pull it off with a fingernail, or you can sand it and you can get it to change that way as well. Okay, so that'll do for that part. Green gold. With these high flows, you've always got to shake them. So you hear that little ball, so that they're really mixed. Mix that with the titanium as well. And that will make it opaque, and so it will cover what's underneath. Now I may come back in here with a bit more moulding paste coloured, so it will cover up this underneath texture. But again, just putting some highlights. This brush is a bit thick to get these kind of river reeds here. I need to get out a rigger. So this is a rigger brush. If you haven't used one before, use them on watercolor. But this, it was developed to paint the rigging on ships, all the ropes and things. But it's great for getting very thin lines. Just need to make sure you've got plenty of water mixed in with your paint so it's quite fluid, and then you can go in like this. Got a little bit of magenta just to dull the green down again. What I've done is I've put all the paints that I've used and left them on the table here, so that any time during my painting I can just grab them again so I know what I've used, because it can get confusing if you use more. So at any time, if you use an opaque paint, it'll cover up what's underneath, and then you can go in with the colour that you want. This turquoise has just dried so very dark. I really don't want so much of that there. Just blend that edge a bit. Alright, still looking like a big mess. Not to worry. We'll get there in the end. Burnt orange. This is the same colour that we used up in the mountain landscape up the top. Just use that. these kind of tree shapes through here. Let's put a few highlights on our landscape as well. Again, using the brush in a horizontal way, so it hits the top of those fibre ridges. Yeah, you see you can use it over crackle paste as well, it doesn't work quite as well. Adding a little bit more red, well, burnt orange. Just in the ridges. I'll get some red oxide out too, I think. You can see how easily you can put the red oxide over that sponge that we did underneath. It shows up over that dark green. Okay, let's fix this area here. So I want to bring these trees forward from this background. I'm going to grab some moulding paste onto my palette knife. It's a little harder to get that straight edge with moulding paste, but you can always put some down and then carve it off like we did before. This is a good one for cutting in. It's got a sharper point to it, so what I'll do is I'll take this one off and mix that with a bit of colour to show you. A little bit of a dab. We've got our trees, and I'll just mix a little bit of the burnt background, burnt orange, and the red oxide. You can see how well those gold and fluid acrylics mix in. It has given us a paler colour, still a lovely colour though. So let's put this bendy tree sort of through there. And that colour is also repeating our mountain colour down into this section, and you can even use it with the sponge as well. Just remember these sponges to rinse them out straight away after you've used them, especially with this moulding paste. Let's get it. Alright, we'll let that dry. Okay, so we're going to paint our reflection while that's drying. And I just had the video off and I just explained it all, but I'll do it all again because it's good practice for me. So we had manganese blue in our sky. We're going to use that as our base colour. So we're going to make quite a watery mix. And we need some clean water to put this down. Let's have a look at this water. Okay. So what I want you to do is to brush only up to our waterline and in a downward direction like this. What that does is the fibres in the paper start going in that direction, which help us to mimic a reflection in still water. Okay, I'll just let that water sink in a little bit. I'll turn my air off. And we'll make a watery mix with our manganese blue. So we've basically got all the colours that we've used in the top part on our palette already. So it's a very watery mix, just in a downward motion like that. Whenever you're working on watercolour, you can see how the paint's got on the edge there. Dry that so it doesn't seep back into the painting. Get rid of all that watery paint sitting on the edge there. Just add a little bit more colour to this. See it? There. It's too bright. If you ever make a mistake like that, it's easy just to take it out with a paper towel. Make sure you add some more of the blue back in. Lift the paper and let it run down a bit as well. And this is getting a little bit away from me. We've got a basic shape there of our mountain. We want to put a little bit of this dark in above it here. Here, and you can see how the colours move differently. Yeah, as well. Some dark through here. Alright, scarlet, just to give us matching up our lines. Doesn't have to be perfect, but in about the same area. More of that green through here too. Okay. Getting there. As I said, you have to move fairly quickly. in this watercolor way. Just drag over just to get that downward motion looking there. Add a little more colour through here. The reflections, if it goes that way, it goes that way in the water. Let's get a thirsty brush, clean, just with the water taken out, and just in a few places run the brush across. Now you want this to be parallel to your waterline and to the edge of the paper. It may be a little bit wet still to do this. What it will do is it will push that back into the background. So if you get the colours right, just in a few places, even just along this top bit, and you can see how it looks like a reflection of the whole scene. I'm going to stay with this for a little bit, just watching it till the shine goes off the paper. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but see how this is shiny where I've just put that paint on, and the area next to it is dull, so I should be able to lift out and that stay there now. So I've let this dry overnight. This is our reflection all dry, and I've started to put some red oxide onto these trunks of these trees, so I'm just going to continue doing that. This is the Matisse structural transparent red oxide. You can see it's quite thick. I can water that down a bit and just run that on these trunks. And thin it right down. Just cover this up at the back a little bit. Oh, it's too similar. But watering it down would be okay. It's too similar. Let's take that off. These trunks here. I'm going to have to add a fairly light yellow green to go over this so that it'll stand out against that background there. Let's get back to our iridescent green, which is quite transparent, translucent, I suppose you'd call it more. Let's see what that looks like up here. I'll change that up again with a little bit more colour to get some variety in there, but I'll just put this coat down to start with. And what that'll do is also draw attention to this area. Because we've put this here, we should add it somewhere else in the painting as well, so a few more up of our reeds down here as well. You can see it's just a matter of building up the layers basically until you like them. At the moment, yeah, not loving this, gotta say. And once I am happy with this section, then I will adjust the reflection down here to actually reflect that. So we've still got to put these tree trunks in down here. This one as well, go that way. That would be sort of there. And these reeds need a little bit of a touch up too. The beauty of working with acrylics in this watery way though is that this is set now, so I can just easily put another layer over the top of that and it'll be fine. So why don't we just let this dry and we'll work on this section again too. So what I'm going to do is wet the whole area again just with some clean water, just so when I do put the paint back on again, it will flow and give me a nice soft look. So I want to get these trees on here, very thin watery paint. It starts about there, goes about there. This one comes up there. So you can see what I'm doing with my finger to get it into the right spot. There. So you can even measure to get about the right spot. Don't forget these are reflections, so there will be movement on the water, so they won't always be perfect. See how I've got this kind of mottled look there. Let's spread out a little bit too big there. Now our white sections again. So we need to get this darker green back in again. Blue out. Should be able to get that. A bit of this. Dried out again. You can see acrylic paints dry really quickly, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Soften those edges. More of that yellow mixed with the red. With that orangey colour. Just a very thin amount of paint. To repeat those colours. And then using clean water. Or water. I always say water. I don't know where that came from. Just to reinforce that. Colour in the reflection. And when this is dry, I'm going with a little bit of white as well. Another area that I want to fix is this top section. it's way too pale to go with the rest of this picture. And if you look at it now, you can see it doesn't even look to be the same picture. So what we're going to have to do is go in here with another wash of blue. Some clean water again. Make sure your water's very clean when you're working with any area that's white. We'll show if there's a dirty brush or dirty water. And I'm just going to go over this blue section and deepen it so that it matches the rest of the painting. You can see now we've got that underneath layer dry. I can just tap that and it comes straight off because this is an acrylic layer underneath here. Always with skies, they're darker at the top, lighter towards the horizon. Clouds are bigger towards the top and smaller towards the horizon as well. And because that's pulling, because this is tipped a bit, I'm just going to run that around, force that colour back up to the top. Edge a little. See here? Had it on my paper towel. Not good because it's a staining colour. But if you grab it quick enough, you can get it, most of it out. I got it all. It's on my hand too, so you always got to be careful you don't do just that. This dry and then we'll come back with some finishing touches. And while that dries, I'm going to put a white glaze over the top of this just to knock this back a bit. Just blot a lot of that off. Okay, so you can see that's just knocked that section back a little bit more from this because the greens were too similar. I may even go in a couple of sections just with a little bit more. Puddles of white are what I'm picking off. I want it to be a wash rather than a complete layer. Okay, let's let that dry. Okay, so that's dried through here. What I've just been doing is adding some of this darker blue back into the painting, so that we're getting this line of dark through here. I didn't really like the black that was on the fishes on the rock, so I've also just gone in with a bit of that Prussian blue just to lighten that a bit, and I may go along this edge as well. But I'm just getting this dark right here. Now this part of the painting can take a bit of time. What I normally do before I finish a painting is I leave it overnight at least, and then I come back with fresh eyes the next day. Because, I mean, you watching there at home, you could probably see some really huge glaring mistakes in this right now that I'm just not seeing because I've been looking at it for too long. So to get this waterline here, I'm going to go in with the fluid white paint, quite thick, and just in a few places. Oops. Try to paint a straight line. Just varying that line across here. Adds water ripples as well. Again, keeping them parallel to that water line. And this is still damp here, so I'll still get a soft edge with that. An easier way to get a straight edge is just to use a rule. And I think I will just go in with a few white highlights through here, just to balance the white that's here. Some trees. Okay, I'm going to leave that overnight and have a look at it tomorrow. Okay, so I'll talk you through that little technical difficulty that I had, just what I did that the camera didn't pick up. So this has been over a few days, and what I've done again is make this area down here darker by wetting the whole area and putting a thin layer of that Prussian blue over that again. So the Prussian blue, sorry, in this part here, and the lighter blue up here. and balancing these. Now I've decided not to really indicate very heavily these trees. There's a suggestion of them, but not very much. Now I did spend a bit of time trying to balance these trees out. What I found with all of the rock texture that we had in behind them, it made the area far too confusing. So what I did was use the titanium, the Liquitex titanium, unbleached titanium, and the Reeves Naples yellow, and just blocked that area out, still leaving a little bit of texture, but a lot of it blocked out so that these trees could actually have some definition of their edges. I also put a bit more of that Prussian blue through here, create a little bit more texture, a few more lines as well, so creating this sense of light and dark through the reeds, and changed a little bit on this rock face here. I went backwards and forwards with it a few times. I wasn't happy with the shadows. I think it was a mistake not to put the moulding paste through that whole area so that I had more chances of getting that texture through here. I actually had to do it with paint. So you can see here with this blue, I'm going a bit closer for you so you can see a little bit better. There we go. So through here I put in some gold as well, because you know I do love my gold. And I realised what I'd done wrong here. I thought I was putting fibre paste down, but as you can see when you hit it with the light, they're glass beads. Now I remember why I don't use glass bead gel. Because it's a bitch to paint over. So again, I went in with some dark and then just tried to bring this bush forward with some light there, and outlined our mountain cliff face. I also got rid of this, we had this sort of dark greens coming down here into the rock face. I thought it drew too much attention over to here, so I've just made that whole thing a rock face because it was all getting too busy and it was driving me crazy actually. Truth be told. So what else have I done? Another layer up here, a little bit more of that jade green, sorry, the teal, and a little bit more of the blue for the mountains in the background. Now up in the sky, what I did was bring that Naples yellow up just a little bit into the cloud section, just to balance that yellow up here as well. You often see those kind of like reflected in the sky. Just be careful when you do that sort of thing that you put the smallest amount and then you just use your finger to sort of rub it in and give that sense. Just balancing the colours in the picture. I also went in again with blue, wet the whole area and put another layer of blue to bring that balance back in because it was so much darker in this lower section. I also went in with the white and just used my sponge on those edges as I did before, just to bring those edges back there. So just go down here, you can see our reflection. Anytime you put a layer over, then your white, you have to bring your whites back again. So using the rule and the paintbrush to bring a few of those whites back. By putting those lines over the top, you get that sense of it being still water. So I'm going to take a photo of the whole thing now. So here's our painting complete. We've used our moulding paste to create texture in our cliff faces and in our reeds. We've learned how to use acrylic as watercolor, and we've also learned how to create reflections. Now I just wanted to show you something else. If you're not happy with a painting, you can always cut it up and perhaps find another painting inside that, because there's sections of this painting that I really liked. And you can see I've just put them in a white frame just to see how things look. I quite like that one at the end there actually, so it's something you can think about if you've got a painting that you don't particularly like. So I hope you enjoyed that class. I enjoyed painting that for you, and I'll be back with another ArtStart Mixed Media Art class really soon. Until then, keep creating. And don't forget to subscribe for your chance to win an ArtStart Mixed Media Art Pack, including 3 Matisse acrylic mediums and 2 ArtStart Mixed Media stencils. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.